Hello, my name is Allison Betts, and I am a behavior analyst at the Scott Center for Autism Treatment. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some tips and strategies that you can use while working as a volunteer with children or individuals with autism. Let's first talk about what autism is. Autism is a spectrum disorder, otherwise known as ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder. What this means is that no two individuals with autism are alike. So it's important that when you are working with individuals with autism, you remember that what works with one individual might not work with another. ASD is a developmental disability, and it's characterized by significant delays or deficits in social, communication, and behavioral challenges. Often, you cannot distinguish individuals with ASD with typical developing individuals by just looking at them. But individuals with ASD learn, interact, and behave very differently than their typical developing peers. Currently, the Center for Disease Control state that 1 in 68 children are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders. It is reported across all racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic classes. However, it's almost 5 times more common among boys than girls, and more children will be diagnosed with autism this year than AIDS, diabetes, and cancer combined. The societal cost for treating individuals with autism per year in 2011 was $9 billion. So as you can see, autism is a very prevalent disorder which needs to be attended to. So what causes autism? While many scientists agree that there's a genetic basis or background to autism, we don't know exactly what causes autism. What we do know, however, is how to treat autism, and we can successfully assess and treat the behaviors that are associated with the disorder. So on to the tips and strategies for working with individuals with autism. These tips are based off of applied behavior analysis, or ABA. So ABA is one of the only evidence-based practices or treatments for autism shown to be effective. It's based on the science of behavior, and the philosophy is that behavior is a product of the individual's environment. So what does this mean? All in all, this means that people behave either to get good stuff or to avoid the bad stuff. Tip 1, provide clear and simple instructions or demands. A demand is anything that you ask or tell the student or individual to do. This can be during recreational tasks that they actually prefer, or during more commonly seen during chores, homework, or tasks that they don't prefer. A demand could even be the simple task of interacting with you. Often, individuals with autism prefer not to interact with other individuals. Therefore, by merely saying hello, this could be seen as an instruction or demand that the individual does not want to comply with. To give an effective demand, you should state the demand in a clear and simple term. Use vocabulary that the individual will understand. A common rule of thumb is to use about the amount of words that the individual can use. So, if the individual uses 2 to 3 word sentences, then your demand should be approximately 2 to 3 words. Also, avoid asking questions unless it's actually a choice. Instead, state the demand or instruction or what you would like the individual to do in a statement. So instead of saying, "Can you come please sit down?" simply say, "Sit down." Try not to remove the demands as a result of problem behavior. So if you tell a child to sit down and he or she runs away or maybe hits you, do not say, "That's okay, you don't have to," or "We can do it later." Rather, follow through with your instruction, and we'll give you some strategies in a second about how to do that. Do not reduce the demand that you already put in place. So if you told an individual to do their homework sheet and he or she engages in problem behavior, don't compromise that instruction by saying, okay, you can just do 3. Stick with the original instruction. Also, do not offer a reinforcer or a preferred item for completing work once the individual is engaged in problem behavior. This is often defined as a bribe. So if you tell the individual to sit down and he or she runs away, and then you say, if you come sit down, I'll give you a cookie, and then she comes and sits down, what you've taught the individual is to run away, so then a cookie is offered for sitting down. You also do not want to provide timeout for problem behavior after you give an instruction. Remember, if a child does not want to comply with instruction, by putting them in timeout, by making them sit, away from the individuals or separately, you're giving them what they want. They do not have to finish the task. So what should you do when giving instructions? Follow through. This is the most important thing to remember. If you give an instruction or demand, you should ensure that the child or individual completes that instruction or demand, no matter how small as sitting down. We do this by using what's called a 3-step prompting sequence. The first step is to tell the individual what to do. Push in your chair. If the individual does not push in her chair when you give the verbal statement to push in the chair, then you would model what you would like them to do. Push in your chair like this while simultaneously pushing in your chair. If he or she still does not comply with the instruction, you should physically prompt the individual to push in the chair. What this looks like is by physically guiding the individual from behind to push in his or her own chair. Tip number 2, pay attention to the right behaviors. We want to make sure that we're addressing the good behaviors and not just focusing on the challenging or problem behaviors. So when I say pay attention, what do I mean by attention? This could be talking in the form of praise. Attention can also be negative attention, such as warnings or reprimands. It could also be any type of interaction, eye contact, physical guidance or interaction, hugs, tickles, things like that, or simply just facing the student and looking at them. In addition, it's important to remember that attention comes from other people in the environment, such as their peer, which is often harder to control. When we're paying attention to the right behaviors, we want to notice good behaviors that you want to see more of and tell the individual how well they're doing with those behaviors. Provide specific rather than general or generic praise. So say something like, great job cleaning up your toys, rather than just nice work. The latter doesn't explain exactly what's being praised. By doing this, you'll allow the individual to know what he or she should do in the future to contact more of your attention. Also, you don't want to take the good behavior for granted. Continue acknowledging the good behaviors. As little as they are or as small of behaviors as they are, we want to make sure that the individual knows to keep doing those good things. When problem behavior does occur, what we would like you to do is try to pretend it's not happening. Pretend you don't even notice the behavior. This does not mean to ignore the child completely. Just ignore the behavior. Act as though he or she didn't just hit you or throw a toy or fall off his or her chair. Try not to reprimand or argue or counsel the individual after the behavior occurs. Remember, even negative attention such as reprimands can be reinforcing. For example, if a child is sitting and working by themselves for an extended period of time or playing, he or she may want attention from someone else. If they throw the toy and a teacher comes running, he has just learned how to get the teacher's individual attention. Another tip is to avoid giving preferred items or tangibles based on problem behavior or following problem behavior. A tangible is typically an item or an activity, things such as snacks, games, and toys. And it's common that individuals engage in problem behavior to get access to preferred items. So, if you have a behavior that is maintained by access to preferred items, in other words, an individual is engaging in problem behavior to get the good stuff, what you don't want to do is allow extra time with the preferred activity or item after problem behavior has occurred. So, if it's time to clean up and the individual needs to leave a preferred task, make sure that you follow through with the instruction to clean up and remove that tangible or preferred item. In addition, you don't want to give the student an item contingent on or be after the problem behavior has occurred. It's common that individuals might tell you, or people might tell you, to give them something to calm down, give them a stress ball, or even a preferred item or a drink or a snack, and that will calm them down. However, if you continue to do this, what might happen is that the individual learns to engage in problem behavior to get the things that they want, which will make it more likely that these problem behaviors will occur in the future. So, if a student tantrums or engages in problem behavior when it's time to leave a preferred activity, what you can do is restrict that activity for the rest of the day. That way, he will learn that engaging in problem behavior doesn't get me the good stuff, it makes that good stuff go away. What else can we do? We can identify and teach and reinforce appropriate replacement behaviors to get the good stuff. So rather than having the individual engage in problem behavior to get the things that they want, we can teach them to ask nicely for the item. While doing this, you want to provide a lot of opportunities throughout the day to practice. We also want to set them up for success. So we can prepare individuals prior to ending times of activities. For example, you can give warnings, and you could tell the individual, in 10 minutes, we're going to have to turn off the computer, or in 10 minutes, we're going to have to switch the activity. Another successful strategy could be to use signals in the environment. So for example, you can use a timer that they can attend to that says how long they have for the activity. Or you can use different colored cards or visual cues to signal what items are available and what isn't available. For example, when a green card is up, he can ask for the computer and play on the computer. However, when the red card is up on the computer, it means that it's not available at that time. We want to make sure that we're also rewarding and reinforcing appropriate ending to activities. So when you do ask the individual to clean up or leave a preferred activity and he or she complies without problem behavior, make sure you're reinforcing that good behavior. Some additional strategies are to keep instructions for the individual as brief and as neutral as possible when the challenging behavior is occurring. So in other words, think of what we have already talked about. We want to follow through with the instruction, so continue to provide the instruction while minimizing the amount of attention that you give. This could be something like saying, sit down, while providing little physical attention or eye contact. Another tip, you want to make sure you know the individual. Recall, all individuals with autism are different. So strategies that may work with one individual that you've worked with in the past may not be effective with another. What is reinforcing for one person may not be for another. So rewards or reinforcers that you use for the good behaviors might be different across all individuals. For example, one individual may really like M&Ms and Skittles, while the other does not like edibles or chocolate. So by giving them chocolate after a good behavior, it might not be reinforcing for them. Strategies for different individuals may also be effective for one versus the other. This can also be within the individual. For example, something that you've tried that works to minimize their aggression in hitting other kids may not be effective for the same individual with a different behavior. You should always know the individual's likes and dislikes and their history of problem behavior and what has been effective in the past. Finally, you should know the individual's skill set and set those expectations. Again, this may be different across individuals and within individuals across different settings or with different tasks. Stay near the individual at all times. This is very important to remember. Individuals with developmental disabilities such as autism often engage in potentially dangerous behaviors. For example, it's common to see individuals with autism engage in elopement or running away, aggression toward others, including peers, self-injury, and property destruction. It's critical that someone is near the individual at all times if they have a history of these behaviors. This will ensure the safety of others and the individual with autism. Another important tip or strategy is to remember that individuals with autism are people too. Individuals with autism are first and foremost people. We do not want to define them by their disability. They should be treated with respect and their dignity should be preserved. Therefore, we want to treat them as we would like to be treated. We do not want to talk about them in front of others while they're standing there. We also want to preserve their privacy as much as possible. When working with individuals with autism, it's often very reinforcing and somewhat very challenging, so you have great stories to tell. However, you want to make sure that you do not reveal personal information such as an individual's name or other characteristics that might make them identifiable to the public when you're talking to friends or family or people who are not working with that child also. And speak to the individual with respect as well. So this concludes our training for volunteers working with individuals with autism. For more information regarding autism or the services at the Scott Center, please contact the Scott Center for Autism Treatment. Thank you.